Once we see this image, there is not just one name that comes in our mind. It's not just Twisha, it is not just Deepika and many more which are seeing the same unfortunate end because of how our society pans out. And today we are not going to talk about just dowry deaths or just anticipatory bail. We are going to talk about a very important change that we have seen in the society, which talks about that education can change things, which talks about a financially independent women can handle a lot of. But at the same time, this is not changing what dowry deaths looked like back a decade. Rather, it is more cruel. The numbers are changing, the means are changing. What does this tell about our society? What are the norms that are coming up? And where does this finally end? Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and in today's session, our whole and sole focus would not be on just this very case, but the pattern that has evolved in the society, where the education, the financial independence and so much more is still not able to save women from the cruelty, from the dowry deaths that are happening. So when we are looking at the present case, let us begin with the context of this given case itself. When we are looking at this given case, this has emerged as of now, it is under jurisdiction and it looks like a dowry death. The more important factor that we need to focus on here today is not cruelty, not dowry harassment, because that has become so much prevalent that it is unfortunate, but unfortunately at the same time we have to look into understanding the cause. So the right now discussion is not about what has happened, you all know what has unfolded. But the core question, the core issue in whole of this scenario is that even educated, affluent households are witnessing dowry-linked harassment, dowry-linked cruelty, dowry-linked deaths. In this situation, what has unfolded and what we need to understand and pick from the conceptual part is anticipatory bail. So as of now, Madhya Pradesh High Court, where the anticipatory bail given by the Sessions Court to the mother-in-law was challenged. So MP High Court has quashed that anticipatory bail that was granted to the mother-in-law. There were two accused, one was the husband itself, second was mother-in-law, and that anticipatory bail has been quashed. So I will briefly address what exactly is anticipatory bail. Anticipatory bail is nothing but a legal protection. So let's just say if somebody is accused and they have been put in judicial custody, they can go for bail. There is a laid down procedure for the same. But in a situation where it is expected that the person might go for judicial custody, in that context, a legal protection is given, especially against arrest. Now, when we are talking about arrest, a very important factor here is that it is related to non-bailable offences. So when we are talking about cases related to dowry deaths and even dowry, they are non-bailable offences. That means you will not be getting bail. In this context, anticipatory bail comes into picture. Anticipatory bail as of now is provided under section 482 of Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita of 2023. Earlier than this, it was part of section 438 of CrPC. Now, whenever court is giving an anticipatory bail, the court does look into seriousness of offence, the possibility that how much evidence tampering can the person do if they are not in the judicial custody, which has happened a lot in this scenario, what kind of witness influence is present, and if they will cooperate in investigation or not. However, in this scenario, all of this seems very contradictory to the person it has been given, but we will not be going into the details of that. We will be just understanding anticipatory bail factually. So when we are looking at anticipatory bail, the whole idea of this being present as a provision is to ensure that the personal liberty is present with fair investigation. So the person has the rights and they can exercise, and this is where in this context it is around serious gender crime cases. Now that we have understood anticipatory bail, let us move straight to the discussion with which we, on the note that we started it with, is to understand that why are we looking at such heinous, cruel, dowry related violence and also deaths. So first thing that we need to understand is to start with understanding that why dowry still has home in apparently educated India. where we are looking at literacy rate, which has changed remarkably since independence, but these numbers, they haven't. If you are looking at the causes, the first and the most prime cause unfortunately would be hidden as into the fact that how marriage is seen as a business deal, where groom has a certain value based on his qualification, based on his salary, and that is what is the main fulcrum of transaction. And that is where the social prestige and consumerism also fuels the whole fire. Second factor that we have to consider, apart from that, the model, the institution of marriage or the event that marks it is more of an economic transaction. Another factor that we have to consider that what brings in this economic transaction. This comes in from the fact that patriarchy in a very renewed form exists in our society. So when we are talking about patriarchy, we are seeing what our education is giving is probably a degree, certain skills, but the mindset remains the same. That certain societal works, certain alignments are towards men and certain things are towards women, and that is not only fueling dowry, but that can also be related against the various crimes that you are seeing towards women. Apart from that, patriarchy remains the major catalyst towards the control over women's will, women's decision, finances and choices. Now, both of these combined result into a social pressure, where the marriage has to be of certain type, certain prestige, certain economic glamour has to be associated with that, and the groom has to be rewarded or gifted or different various words apart from dowry are used as per his salary or status. And that social pressure is not the end of it. It is also about once the event is done and the marriage begins, the whole idea is to save the marriage. Because definitely, as our Solicitor General also pointed out, that a divorced daughter is something difficult to accept than a dead daughter. Divorced daughters are not accepted. And this is the save the marriage mentality which creates a fear of divorce, fear of separation, the stigma, how they will be labeled, how they will be discarded and discriminated against in the society. And it is exactly all of this that has resulted in the numbers that we are going to see now. If you look at just cruelty, I am not talking about dowry deaths as of now, I am going to start with just looking at the cases of cruelty. If we are looking at 2024, already previously in 2023-22, we have seen a high of 1,40,000 cases. And when we are looking at, please keep in mind, this also includes a lot of underreporting. Apart from that, when we look at dowry deaths, you might see that there is a fall. But this number is also immense. That means almost every 2.5 hours, we are seeing a dowry related violence, and this is also equally alarmingly high. Apart from that, when we were talking about the causes which are leading to persistence of dowry death, existence of dowry death in educated India, another big factor that has persisted across is the aspirational middle class culture. Now, when we are talking about the middle class itself, the idea of skipping this bracket, showing off how that will be fulfilled with limited means, that is something that is sought through from the groom side as gifts, and that is very much needed to put on a competitive social display, to perform in that competitive social display. So yes, in probably the GDP numbers, the literacy rate, the skill set, the contribution, the inventions, India might be going ahead. We are seeing an economic modernization, but that is not at all turning into a social transformation, a change in society. So as of now, our discussion has just rounded on the causes. We also need to dig deep further and understand another aspect around it, that what exactly is enabling it, that can actually financial independence protect women. Because when we are talking about certain social issues, it has also always been move towards education, that if education comes in, literacy comes in, it can be handled, it can be understood. Be it gender related discrimination, be it caste related discrimination, be it religion related discrimination, and so much more. In this context, when we are talking about the gender inequality, it has always been understood that literacy, the financial independence can actually help women to gain the prominence that they have lost across the decades and years and also millenniums. In this very context, has financial independence helped? So when we are looking at financial independence as a factor, it has worked, but it is not sufficient. Because women might be working, but at the same time they are responsible for the household chores. They are not the ones making their financial decision. They are subjected to emotional abuse. They are the ones who are suffering with domestic violence, coercive control, and they do not have family support. In all the means I am talking about, just not chores, but also financial inability. And this comes from structural problems. Few of the structural problems that we have already discussed, that how patriarchy exists, how there are extremely weak social support systems who can help women, enable women, them and empower them. And also a very important factor, that if they reach out, if they need legal help, there are delayed legal responses, which you can see in Twisha Sharma's case as well, which you can see in Deepika Nagar's case as well, and endless names that I can take of the recent times. Not just recent times, across that can be taken. Now, another dimension that I want to discuss here, that when we are talking about all of this, why are we not discussing what exists to protect women from all of this? So yes, there is a legal framework, but at the end of it, I would want to know from your end, is this legal framework just enough? A lot of you might be tempted to say that this is something that is being misused, but at the same time you have to understand the numbers that exist and how real it is getting as a cruelty, as a problem for our society at the same time. So when we are looking at the legal framework, first we have a constitutional basis as well. We have Article 14, which talks about equality before law, and we have Article 15, Provision 3, which talks about special provisions for women. And then definitely Article 21, right to life and dignity. Based on that, we have major laws such as Dowry Prohibition Act 1961, prohibiting giving and taking dowry. 1961 this law came in. We are standing in 2026, doesn't seem functioning. Then we have Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. There are direct provisions present there related to dowry death, cruelty by husband or in-laws as well. And then we also have the Domestic Violence Act of 2005. It provides protection orders, residence right maintenance and legal remedies as well. But at the same time, when we are talking about these laws being present on paper, they seem valid, they seem enough. But the challenges that have emerged despite existence of this legal framework and constitutional provisions are also immense. I have pointed out to one, that is under-reporting, but the delayed justice, the non-reporting, the social stigma and weak enforcement of these laws makes these laws pretty much meaningless. And that is why even after existence of all this, what we see in our society is patriarchy being not just present in rural India, but in renewed forms in urban India. Marriage exists as a market and a status culture competition. This is nothing but to fuel consumerism, but the show off, the gendered wealth expectation, that this gender should get this gender should get this. This is what has also led to the presence of, and this is not all, this also shows that how there are gaps in enforcement. This also shows that how social transformation is lacking. And when India is talking about becoming a Viksit Bharat by 2047, this immense negative balance that we have in terms of social transformation needs to be duly adhered, understood and addressed at the same time. Now on this note, I will be concluding that when we are looking at this particular case or the recent case, this is not just a rural issue, this is a pan-India issue, this is an issue of Indian society, but at the same time we have to understand that it is not going to be just economic growth that can address it, but a lot more is required for the same addressal. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.